Okay, so we are here with Andrew. Would you like to be Andrew Aloha or Andrew?
Well, this is Andrew Aloha, live out of Sedona, Arizona with Spiritualist Productions.
And it's March 2010. We're looking forward to a new spring.
Yeah.
Of good beginnings.
I don't think the winter is over there with yet, but it's going to be here pretty soon.
Okay. Now, Andrew, this is for the second edition of The Heart of Sedona. Basically a book for tourists or people visiting who are looking to find out the personal stories of the people that have chosen to live here. Because it's such a beautiful place. Everyone loves it. Can you tell me how you came to be in Sedona?
And it's good that you're doing this because I've talked to a lot of people around here. I've been here for going on 15 years, and June 9th, 1995 is when I got here. And I've talked to a lot of people about their stories, and yeah, everybody has a story here, some really unusual ones. And I don't know if that mine's any more unusual or less unusual, but how I got here was, it started out with, I was living in Sacramento in my own apartment, and I woke up one morning, like you're half asleep, half awake, and you're like, kind of in a daze. And I hear this voice inside me going, go around the corner, buy the blue, I thought it said blue Ford Fairlane. I said, what? And this voice goes, go around the corner and buy the blue Ford Fairlane. I said, okay. So I get up out of my bed, I walk around, and sure enough, there's a blue Ford Fairlane out there. So, and I just happened to have enough money for it. The car that I was driving at the time was a really beat up Honda, and it didn't even go faster than 50 miles an hour on the freeway.
Wow.
So I said, okay, well at least this will go faster than 50 miles an hour. That'll be nice. So I bought it from this guy that works for DMV, and I just said, oh, just go ahead and give me the car, and he told me all this line of BS, and I said, okay, fine. So I bought the car, and I took the other car, and I gave it away, I think. And then I went to this other friend of mine, I said, and I was just getting ready to move out too at that time too, when all this was going on. I'd been living in Sacramento for about a year and a half, I can't remember, but I go to this other friend, this friend of mine. I said, go, do me a favor and do like a quick reading and see what you come up with. She does psychic readings, So I said, she goes, oh, I can see you above the Grand Canyon. I said, okay, bye. So literally the next day, I had set out to come out here. Wow. The next day, literally.
Wow.
So I packed up all my stuff and put it all in my car and took off. And that, the fact that this car happened to be there, and it was just my price range, and it was perfect. So I took off. I was living. I took off up through Tahoe, up through Reno, and it was snowing at the time. And all of a sudden, my car just stops, like I was in Carson City, in the middle of the freeway. And I'm like, I pulled over. My car stops. So luckily, I had like AAA. I called. They towed me into the next little dinky town. I don't know what it was, but I go, well, when's the gas station opening? They go, probably 9 o'clock in the morning, tomorrow morning. I said, oh my God. And it's like freezing cold, and it's like snow, and the car doesn't have a heater, and of course, even if it does, it's not working. So I said, okay, fine. So I jump in the back, put on some blankets, and I'm freezing cold, it's like, oh man, I was like shivering like crazy, and then I said, forget this. So I jumped in the car, and sure enough, it cranked back up. Cranked on. So cool, I'm out of here. So I did. I took off. I think I went through Death Valley and all this other stuff, So about 7 o'clock in the morning, I end up in Kingman, and I said, oh man. And so I pulled over, got some sleep. It was warm. I said, oh man, this feels so much better. So I passed out there for about a couple hours, and then I drove in. But before I took off on that journey, I had been to some whole life expos up in Sacramento and a couple other places, and people had told me about Sedona, and I said, well, they had some people that were like making these drums from Sedona, and I go, oh, where are you from? They go, Sedona. I go, well, what is Sedona? They go, well, it's an ancient Indian spiritual ground up in Sedona, up in Arizona. That's all I knew. Yeah. So literally before I left, I bought a map, and I wasn't sure, why I bought the map, but I just bought the map of Sedona. So I put it in my glove compartment and took off, and then finally I drove into Sedona, and I was just so exhausted, and I just kind of drove around. I looked for a hostel here. I go, well, isn't there a hostel around? Because I had been overseas. I'd been to college and went overseas, and I stayed at some hostels there, and I knew they had some here in the States, but I go, I can't believe this. You know, this is a freaking tourist town. They don't have a hostel here. I said, oh my God. So I went back up to Flagstaff, and I looked around and I go, I don't know why everybody falls in love with this place. It's like annoying. So like you know, throughout the years, I've learned to like, you know, kind of really get adjusted to this place and really appreciate this a lot more. But so I went up to Flagstaff, and I went to East Whittier Hotel, one of the oldest hotels in Flagstaff, and they still had a hostel there. So I went there, stayed there for the night, got some sleep, and then drove back in. Since then, it's been renovated, and the hostel no longer exists.
Wow.
So I said, okay. So I drove in and drove around, and then so I said, okay, fine. I'll just sleep in my car. At the time, they didn't have parking pass requirements or anything like that.
Right.
So you could still, you know, just camp out wherever you want and just do whatever you want, kind of thing. So I did. I camped out in my car for about 2 weeks, I thought. And I got here like June 9th, 1995. That was also the same year that Pluto went into Sagittarius. So I knew I had some stuff ahead of me, and I just didn't know what. So I went there, and I thought, well, I'll wait till the full moon, and then I'll meditate. I'll do my full moon meditation, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. So I hung out, and they had a place called Java on the Rocks. And I think I remember reading about this place because they did a write-up of it in Rolling Stone magazine. Huh. And
Okay.
They had original artists, and it's a little cafe, and they put all this music, and you know, I thought, and I really didn't click till later on, and I figured out, oh, that's the same place. So anyhow, that's where I hung out at for about 2 weeks. Then, you know, they had several people, Vicky Pratt Keaton, I think Jesse Lee was there, and several other people were there, you know, just strumming along. And we just kicked back and played chess, and I only had like 26 bucks in my pocket at that point. So I didn't have much. So I couldn't really do much. And then you know, people would do drumming circles, so I'd take off and with somebody and go do a drumming circle, and they do hikes and stuff. And so finally the full moon came around, and I said, okay, fine, I'm going to go do my meditation, and I'll get back, and then I'll figure out. So I'm in my car doing my full moon meditation, right, up in Snubberly Hill. That's where I camped out the most, because that's where I I just liked that energy up there. And in the meantime, I would also go up to the airport, and I would do meditations there, like in the morning and at night. I'd go there in the morning, do a meditation, and and then sometimes I would lead groups up there, and people would lead, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people through a meditation, and I just kind of walked through it. So I'd hang out there, do my meditation, go to the Java on the Rocks, listen to some music, just play some chess, and just hung out, and just did some hikes and all this other stuff. And so I'm sitting in my car in the back seat. I'm in the middle of my meditation, and all of a sudden this guy, this Indian guy, gets in my car, sits next to me. He goes, hey, do you want to have sex? Or, I don't know exactly what it is, but something to that nature. I go, first of all, I'm in the middle of my meditation right now. Second of all, I'm not gay, and you have to leave right now. So he did. He got out of the car, took off, and somewhere down the road, somebody said that he turned around and raped some guy or something like that.
Really?
Afterwards, I don't know what, but it was bizarre. It was really bizarre. So I said, so I did. I finished my full moon meditation. The next day, I said, and that night I decided, well, it's cold in Flagstaff, it's hot in Phoenix, so I'll just stay here. So I did. Next day I had 4 jobs lined up, and I found a place to live.
Wow.
Like the very next day.
Wow.
And I started 3 of those jobs, and the other one I just can't. I think one of them was Kentucky Fire Trick, and I said, I'm done with this job. I worked 1 or 2 days. I didn't even go back for my paycheck. I said, I'm out of here. So anyhow, and I worked at a place called Pepe Maldunes, right? So I worked, and so anyhow, I just worked for, and that's all I did for their first year, which is go out and did hikes everywhere. I mean, like 2 or 3 hikes a week, and just would go swimming and do drumming circles and all kinds of stuff. And so I got a really good taste about what Sedona was all about in its more truer essence and appreciation essence. So about a year and a half later, and I was heavy into photography because I do photography. So I would do portfolios for people, I'd go out to Cathedral Rock and do some portfolios, some shoots there and some other places. And so I met this woman. Later on, found out that her and I had been married in other lifetimes, like 7 or 8 other lifetimes, like several. You know, and I haven't run into anybody else that I've spent that much time with in another lifetime. Yeah. And we're still friends. We get along and we still hang out. In fact, I just talked to her yesterday, and she was like all sick and stuff. But she lives in Cottonwood, and so we hang out and we have these little picnics and we go hiking and all this stuff, and I do shoots all over the place. So I had like hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of film and photographs that I developed, and I had this website called divineimages.org, right? And it's world renowned. I've had people from all over the world tell me, oh yeah, I've seen that website. So and I had like over 2,100 photographs of different spiritual events and sites and situations from all over the world on there. Wow. So all kinds of stuff, and just places I'd visit, and
how did you get into the radio business?
Well, that's a little bit further down the road, but I want to kind of get through the meat of this, yeah, and then go from there. But after a while, I met this woman, and then I went to live with her in Cottonwood, and then about a year later, 1996, I was working on the roof, and in fact the post office up in Village Oak Creek, and I tripped off the roof and broke both my heels. Oh my God. Yeah, so I broke both my heels. I ended up in the hospital, and in fact the girlfriend that I had, she's a beautician, she came up and cut my hair in the hospital. So that was kind of funny. It was cute. But I both, and they go, well, we've never had anybody like that's had both their heels broken except a pilot. That would be the only kind of. Wow. So I guess this pilot crashed his plane. So that's the way that story went. So anyhow, and then about 2 years, and then right about that time, I was living in Cottonwood, and I was living on my own, and then one night I was going to sleep, and I woke up in the morning, and I had this Sai Baba dream. I don't know if you know about Sai Baba dreams, yeah. But I haven't had one in a long time. But I've had about 4 or 5 or 6 of them. I can't remember. But Sai Baba, I was at my elementary school, and I know because they had high sidewalks there, and I knew it. I recognized it. But he was sitting there in a lotus position. I walked by him, walk back, and I sit down, and I go, when may I come and visit you? Like this. And then he goes, in May. And then, I don't know if you know what vibhuti is, but all of a sudden this golden shimmering vibhuti started pouring into my hands. My hands were literally shaking like this. Wow. Because it was so powerful. And then some of it went somewhere else. I go, hey, where? And I couldn't see who that went to. So I go, so I woke up. And so I said, okay, so fine. So I was living in Cottonwood at the time, and I was going to college at Yavapai College. I was taking some leadership classes there. And I said, okay, fine. So and then I moved back to, and about every 6 months, Sedona would kick me out. Yeah, and that does that. And about at least once a week, I'd have to go up to Flagstaff, just because the energies were just too much for me. Yeah. So it was just too intense. So, and then I'd come back, and then I'd get my fix, and then I'd be calm, balanced enough, and then grounded enough, and then I'd continue. So anyhow, at the time I broke both my heels. I was living in Cottonwood, and then I moved back to Sedona with these 2 women. I called them my 2 wives and 4 kids, because literally it was just like that. So I ended up hooking up with one of these women, and she was an Amachi devotee. Mm-hmm. So at the time, like I broke my heels in September. In November, December, I moved back here, and then January, her and I are starting to get along. And then about March, April, maybe February or so, I thought, I was thinking about that dream with Sai Baba. And at the time, I also got hired. They had a psychic group here in town, and I can't remember what their names are, but they had this psychic hotline, and they hired a bunch of us. They literally we had to fill out an application, and we had to have references and all this stuff. So everybody's going in, and I do astrology, right? So, I've done astrology for a number of years, and mostly on my own. I read this book by a woman by the name of Debbie Kempton Smith, A Secret to a Stargazer's Astrology, or something like that. And that's where I got most of my astrology experience from. So, after a while, I did, I've done hundreds and hundreds of astrology chart readings. You get to know stuff. And so they hired me, and they taught me how to do tarot card readings. So I moved into this house. I was collecting workman's comp, and then I started working for these guys, like 14, 16 bucks an hour to do these readings. And I did pretty good. I'd get on the phone, and sometimes I'd be, and I would only do like 3 or 4 or 5 calls in one night, because I would be on the phone with one person for an hour, and the hour is the most you can be on with a person. So like for 3 or 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, and then I'd be done. So I ended up making enough money so I can go to India to visit Sai Baba. So I said, okay. And then between that and workman's comp, in the meantime, I was working out at the Sedona racquetball club to get myself rehabilitated. They put pins in my heels, and so I'm they had me in the hospital like for 3 weeks. They give me an operation, and then they were going to put me in a nursing home. And I said, forget that. Let me go back to my apartment. So I did. I went back to my apartment up in Cottonwood, and I had to crawl around to do everything. And so I said, oh. So anyhow, I moved back here, and then I moved in with these women, and then this woman goes that I was with, the girlfriend. She goes, well, why don't we go do the tour with Amachi? I said, I think I got enough money to go to visit Sai Baba. I'm going to go visit Sai Baba. So she was pissed. So that was it. That was kind of more or less the end of the relationship after that. So I said, okay, fine. So anyhow, I did. I quit my girlfriend, quit school, sold my car, put everything in storage, and took off. Wow. Yeah, literally. And I was gone like for about. I was in India for about a month and a half, almost 2 months for that whole time.
That's awesome.
I went there. When I got there, all I knew was I had to go to Brindavan or Whitefield. So, they have these little rickshaw guys that drive all these little things around. I got in one of those. I go, take me to Brindavan, take me to Whitefield. And I didn't understand what that was. And I didn't understand that Brindavan was the name of the ashram, and Whitefield was the name of the city where the ashram was at.
Okay.
So he takes me to Whitefield, a hotel. I said, no, take me to Brindavan, to Whitefield. And so he finally got me there, and so I did. It was very peaceful. When I first got there, Sai Baba was doing some darshans. There was only about 2,000 or 3,000 people there. And before I left, I said, Sai Baba, if I go and visit you, I know who you are. I don't have to go visit you to know who you are, but I want it to be for something that's beneficial for me and yourself, and for whoever else is concerned. So I said, and then I left it at that. So when I got there, there were really small, intimate darshans, and only 2,000 or 3,000 people, and I would always get to be let in first because of my heels. And at that point, I couldn't even wear shoes anymore because the pins were rubbing against my skin. And so I sat down and I would just meditate. Oh man, because before I came here, I used to do like 2 to 6 hour meditations every day, literally. And where I learned how to do this meditation called transmission meditation through the works of Benjamin Krem, and that's another story and stuff. But anyhow, I end up in Brindavan, Whitefield, and we afterwards we sing some songs after he did his darshan, and some people gave me some letters to take to him. So at one point I went and sat down at a spot and then gave him the letters, and then I bought some vibhuti, like 4 bags of this vibhuti. In the meantime, these Italian people, whenever you go visit them, people go there in groups because that's how they talk to them. So these Italians adopted me and had me in their group. I said, okay, fine. So I did. I bought like 4 bags of vibhuti, and then I went and sat down so that he could bless them. So sure enough, he comes back. He walks around, and then he looks back, and then then turns around and keeps going. And then I was next to a security guy by the name of, that's a what you call a sabadar, or a security person. I go, doesn't he have to touch my vibhuti in order for it to be blessed? He goes, no, if he walks by, it's blessed. I said, okay. So afterwards, I was telling these people about that. I go, yeah, this sabadar was telling me, if he walks by, it's blessed. As soon as I said that, all of a sudden this energy just started pouring into my hands, and my hands were literally shaking, like in the dream. Wow. And with these 4 bags of vibhuti, and so I go, wow, that's a trip. So anyhow, I gave one of those bags to the Italians, and then I gave some to other people. In fact, Tom Dongo, who's going to be at the show this Friday, I let him have some. He goes, wow, this is really powerful. I mean, because he could feel the energy already.
Wow.
He too said, wow, this is pretty powerful. So anyhow, that's all gone. But I did. I came back, and then I started going to school at NAU. And so I went there for a few years, and then I moved to the Grand Canyon. Lived there for about 4 months. That was a trip in itself. And then I took off to California. And then at the time, I was still doing the photography, and then then I moved to Hawaii. I went to a friend of mine, and hadn't gotten to learn about who Amachi was until later on. So I went back. I didn't know who Amachi was, and then the girlfriend took off and visited Amachi, and then I said, well, okay. So I ended up in California, and she came in. I said, and I was in Reno, Nevada, and some people said, well, we're going to go visit Amachi in San Rafael or something like that, up in the Bay Area. And I said, I want to go. So they go, okay, so fine. So I went there, and then I did. I went there and met her, and I did like a meditation. She hugs you. I got my hug, and then I meditated afterwards for about an hour and a half. It was just an incredibly nice meditation. And then I met this woman there, right? And actually, we've known each other since then, but I haven't talked to her in a while. But anyhow, so I went to visit her one day, and she goes, I just got this message. You got to go to Hawaii. I go, oh yeah, right, fine, whatever. So then all of a sudden, the stuff about Hawaii starts coming up, right? So I said, oh, okay, something's going on. And then again, I wake up one morning, like 2 weeks later, and I get this, you're half asleep, half awake on this days. And I hear this, people are friends. Like this, it's an American version of the song. I think the people that go shall let all out. These are. I think it's those people that sing that song, but he made it into a Hawaiian version of it.
That's funny.
And it was Iz, and that's who I think it was. I still haven't confirmed it, but he died that same year. And so this guy is people are singing in my mind, and I'm half awake, half asleep, and I'm going, okay, I guess I got to go to Hawaii. So I did. I took off. I went to Kauai, and I was there. I stayed in a hostel there, and then I went and camped out on the beach, and I said, I'm out of here. I was like getting ready to take off, and I decided, well, I'm going to camp out one night and check it out. So I was camping out there, and I got all these bugs. It was just obnoxious night. I mean, bugs were biting me everywhere, and then I was next to this people, and this guy goes, oh, I'm famous throughout the islands. I go, oh yeah, okay, fine. Come to find out, I figured out later that this guy was a drug lord, right? And I go, oh yeah. So I go, I'm out of here. So I did. I took off. And then I called the friend out from California that told me the reading. She goes, no. I got this friend in Maui. Go to Maui, she'll help you out. So I said, okay. So I did. I went to Maui, and she goes, you have to go to Hawaii for about 18 months, reclaim your heritage to the Li'i, who used to be the royalty that used to live there, and they lived in Lahaina. And so and then finish up and just go through some healing. I said, okay, that's fine. So I did. I ended up in Lahaina, which is where all the royalty used to live at. I lived about a mile and a half, 2 miles, or maybe 3 miles from the beach. And the whole time I was there for about 7 months. So I guess I went to the fast track program because I did everything like in 7 months. But I think I still have to go back and do some more stuff in Tahiti and also New Zealand because I think parts of it are connected to that. But anyhow, so I did. I got to do all everything there. I got the red carpet treatment. I did all luau's, snorkeling trips, bicycling trips, helicopter rides, horseback rides. Dinner cruises, everything you can do there. I did parasailing trips, and then I ate at all the nice restaurants. Gained about 20-25 pounds, and I said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go back to the United States. I'm back to the States, and the mainland, and go do the tour with Amachi. Because at this time, I knew who she was, and I spent 7 months there. The next year, and then she was going to do a tour. So I did. I went back, and I come to find out, I went to like a kahuna thing and training thing there in Hawaii, and then one day I was walking down the street, and I figured out I was a tall guy, about 7'1", by the name of Kapanali. and he was just a really gentle energy for him, just a really nice guy, just really mellow guy, and it's funny because I knew he was 7'1", but I never have confirmed that these people were that tall ever until about 2 or 3 months ago, literally. This is back in 2003.
Wow.
And then just recently, about 2 or 3 months, this lady says, yeah, these guys used to be really tall.
Wow.
So I go, wow, that confirms what you know, and all this stuff is just perceptions, and not that it matters one way or another, but you know, it's nice to have it confirmed one way or another, or at least to have an understanding. So that was kind of cool. And so, but anyhow, I came back and I did. I did I went and stayed. I went and got my van. I had this nice van. 1997 Ford Aerostar van, burgundy, and I went to Amachi's ashram in San Ramon, her biggest ashram in the United States. And I go, hey, can I meditate here to these people? And they go, well, yeah, but you know, you're not supposed to. I said, they go, but just go ahead. And I said, okay. So I did a meditation for about an hour and a half, and then I was getting ready to leave. They go, well, why don't you just stay here and do the Karma Yoga program? I go, what's the Karma Yoga program? They go, well, you just work and you can stay here. Oh, okay, sure, fine. So I did. So it was kind of funny because I went and put in an application and a request to do the Karma Yoga program, and at first they go, well, you know, because I still had at the time I had already somewhere in the process I had already had the pins removed from my heels when I came back from India. Again, I was there for a month and a half, and that's a whole story in itself. But you know, I came back and I had my pins removed, and then you know I was able to walk a lot better. But anyhow, because I'm crippled from that, you know, and still am, you know, disabled from that. They go, well, you know, we don't think you should be able to stay here because you know you're disabled, and you know, and we're afraid that you're going to get hurt and blah blah blah. I go, well, you know what? Isn't that what the Disability Act is all about? Stuff like this.
Really? And
I said, and they go, So they came back and go, well, you can stay here. Just try not to get hurt. I go, oh yeah, that's good idea. So anyhow, so I did. I stayed there, and I drove a truck, a 20-foot truck, once a week. We'd go pick up medical supplies all over the area. By the time we were back, you know, and it was funny because sometimes we would just go pick up a few things, but no matter what happened, that truck would always be full when we came back.
Wow. And
we go unload it, and then we put it in a container up in San Francisco area, and then they would send it to Amachi's ashram for people to get free services. Wow. You know, and stuff like that. So I figured we collected about $500,000 worth of supplies and stuff. In the time that I was there, 3.5 months, 3 months or so, and then I said, well, you know, and by this time, I went completely on strictly vegetarian diet, you know, because when I was in Hawaii, I was eating all this stuff, and then I had lost all that weight, like 25 pounds. I was back into shape again, and then I said, and when I talk to these guys, I go, I'm here to go on to, I'm going to be going on Amachi's tour. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but and I'm just wait, you know, I'm just going to hang out and wait till then. And so in the meantime, I did all this work, and sure enough, Amachi comes in town, and then everything. I mean, I don't have any funding or nothing's going. You know, I don't have anything going on, and so I'm just kind of, you know, working. I went to visit my sister, and then all of a sudden I got this call. I went and applied to all these temporary agencies for some work, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, and like Amachi spends like 2 weeks there in San Ramon, and then takes off and then does her tour. So right about in the last week, in the last week of the tour of her time there in San Ramon, I get this phone call, and they go, "Yeah, do you want to come work? We'll pay you like $13 an hour to come work for us, and you know, for this Coke thing." So I said, okay. So I worked for them for about a week, right? You know, for several days. In the meantime, I'd go and stay at the ashram and visit Amachi and all this other stuff. And then at the end of the whole darshan thing, the whole program, everybody's getting ready to leave. Like Saturday night or Monday night, she's like there, and then she stays there all night hugging people, and then the next morning she takes off, and then everybody leaves, takes off to the next town. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, well, people are going, well, are you going to go on tour? I go, well, I don't know. I don't have any money. I mean, literally, I didn't have even one penny in my pocket. They go, well, come on, let's go. We'll pay for your gas. I said, okay, fine, let's go. So I did, but the thing is, I was waiting for my check from the temporary agency because they only paid like once a week, and I was just waiting for that. So they go, just come on, let's go. So I said, okay. So we went to Los Angeles, and on the way there, I had a flat tire, and then I had that changed out, and then we had another flat tire. I said, oh, geez. So, and the guys that I was with paid for it, paid for all that to have it fixed. So we got to Los Angeles, and we did the program there, and then I had my check sent to the hotel that they were staying at in Los Angeles. So I got my check, and then I went and got new tires put on, and had some work done in my van in case I was going to do the tour all across the country. So that's what I did. I did the whole tour with Amachi all across the country.
Wow. And
just living on whatever people gave me, just complete trust, and that was like that was the whole lesson plan, just to trust that everything was going to come, and I would always have enough food. Sometimes I was somewhat hungry, but inevitably I would always get plenty of food. And I was asked, when I went in and I go, well, don't you want, I talk to Spirit, God, or whatever, and I go, well, shouldn't I go work in the kitchen or something? I was asked, no, just observe and just hang out. So all I did was I was a taxi service for all these people that and they give me money. I'd take them from town to town, all the way up to New York, and then Washington, and back. And then when I got back, I got back to Texas. So I went and stayed with my aunt and uncle, or my aunt there, Texas. Worked for about a couple of months. And then I went to India. She had a birthday celebration, her 50th birthday celebration. So wow. I went there for 2 weeks, came back, and then went back up to Northern California. And that's along these lines, when I was doing the tour, I was given the name Spiritual Image Productions. Because I was doing the divineimages.org, and I was talking to some friends, and then I was just kind of seeing what my next step was going to be in my next company. And all of a sudden, Spiritual Image Productions was born from doing that tour.
Wow.
So I said, and when that was born, when that came about, it came about in the sense that the company is and was going to be based on everything that was going on with this tour. It was like a message because there's a lot behind this company. And so the purpose, the main purpose, and the main goal, the mission for Spiritual Image Productions is to establish and maintain right relationships through human values. And when I was putting that together here, I was kind of looking for a slogan, some kind of a motto or whatever, and that finally that just came about, and that stuck with it. So, but anyhow, I did the tour. I came back to California, and I went and I got certified to be a television producer at the time. So I did. In the meantime, so when I got back from India back in 1997, I went to school at NAU. I said I came back, and the girlfriend wanted me to move back with her back here in Sedona. I said no, I'm going to school, and you and I are done. That's it. So I did. I went to school at NAU. I mastered in educational leadership, and it was funny because I got everything prepared, and before I left, not knowing what to expect. So I came back here, and in one day I was enrolled and up and going and had funding to go to school. Wow. One day. So and then I went after to visit my grandmother up in Texas, and then came back and started school and went to school there. In the meantime, the next year, 1990, I think 1998, I can't remember. I think 1998. I had been reading some. I had come across these books by Joshua David Stone, and he used to live here, and in fact, I just talked to his ex-wife. She's getting ready to move pretty soon, or she's already in the process of moving. Terry Newland, and so anyhow, I started to pick up some of these books, and Spirit was going, no, don't, just wait. So when I got to the ashram up in Sai Baba's place up in India, all of a sudden these books showed up. So I started reading, and I go, wow, and there was some really cool stuff in there. So I read, and then I heard about the Wesak Festival from the book. you know, he was the producer of it. You know, I think 15 years ago he started his first one or something like that. So I said, well, I want to go to this. So I didn't have much cash. So I wrote him a letter. I said, hey, you know, I don't have much cash. You know, can I pay like half the fees and go and I'll take some photographs and give you some copies. He goes, yeah, sure. I said, okay. So I went and before I left, I was in EU. I was living in the dorms, and I said, for some reason I couldn't leave. I mean, everything I tried to do, every time I turn around to try to leave, something would happen. I couldn't leave.
Right.
I go, what the heck's going on? And it hit me like a rock. I got to go visit the ex-girlfriend up in Sedona. I said, okay, fine. So I went up, and come to find out, her dad died or something like that, and she got an inheritance and all this stuff, and she was pretty upset, and I said, well, you know, I just came to visit, see how you're doing, and all of a sudden she spills all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And I go, well, I'm headed up to the WESAC Festival, and she goes, oh, I want to go. I go, well, and I can't remember what I was driving, but I didn't have room for everybody, so I go, well, you know, you'd have to pay for your own self, and we'd have to take your car. She goes, oh, I don't care, I don't mind. I go, okay, fine, whatever. So we did. We took off, and we went to the first WESAC Festival, and I photographed the whole thing, and then came back, and I sent copies to Joshua David Stone. And then Joshua David Stone came back and goes, well, the masters want to know if you want to be the official photographer for the WESAC Festival. I said, oh, okay, sure, fine, why not? So you know, after that, he'd give me free tickets to go, and I didn't have to pay anymore. So I did, but he never really gave me extra cash for my expenses. He never cut my expenses, so everything came out of my own pocket. So I would usually take about 23 to 28 rolls of film, wow, and have them develop and then send them to him, like $400, $500 worth of stuff. You know, wow. Not even that didn't even include my expenses. So I'd send him copies of everything on DVD, and then he'd put them on his website. Now there was like probably 650, 700 photographs that I took on his website. Wow. Yeah, and people were coming from all over the world. I mean, over 2,000 people here in this little place. Half of them from the United States, the rest were from everywhere else. So, you know, I would photograph this whole thing, every event. And that's where I met Scott Huckabee, Lauren Pomerantz. I mean, I met all kinds of people there. I mean, from all over the world. And then, so in 2003, I think, when I finally did the tour with Amachi, came back, and then did the video production company. I started getting my equipment together for my video production company. So the 2003 or 2004, I think, was the last year that I went. And instead of photographing it, I video shot it.
That's cool. Yeah,
but I still hadn't worked out all the wrinkles, and I was like, it was my first production, and so things never really got going with that production. But you know, some stuff was put out there. But that whole show was never ever video shot ever. I mean, it was, but there's no really good DVDs of that whole thing ever anywhere. Right. So anyhow, that was my last show there, and I also took some photographs. Every year they'd have the WESAC Festival Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday they would have a leadership retreat. So the very last year I got this. Hurry up, get going before 9:30 or something like that. I said, okay, fine. So I took off, and I didn't know what was going on. So I took off, and all of a sudden I looked at these clouds next to Mount Shasta. I go, wow, those look cool. So I pulled off literally on the freeway, grabbed my tripod out, started shooting away. Some really awesome shots, and then took off to the leadership retreat. And it was really weird because I had all that film. I had 24, 25 rolls of film, or maybe I don't. Anyhow, I had several rolls of film developed, and I got all my negatives back, my prints back, and there was actually about a handful of negatives that were missing, and I knew that because the photos were there, but the negatives weren't there. I go, oh, that's really weird. So I was showing these pictures to my friend, and I didn't think anything. He goes, oh, wow, look at that. And sure enough, there was a I don't know if it was a mothership, but it was a UFO. Wow. In the clouds. You can see it's identified. I lost, a few years ago, I lost my van. I lost everything. I mean, everything. And so that was, but luckily I had a lot of this stuff put on my website, and so I still had retained some of that stuff, and so you can still see it. But anyhow, there's you can only see like half the ship right next to Mount Shasta, and it's huge, and it was a cloud formation. You couldn't see the actual ship, but you can see the cloud, and you can recognize it. I go, wow, that's cool. So and if this guy had never pointed, if he didn't point that out, maybe I don't know if I would have seen it or not. But that was a trip. I go, wow. And so that's when I figured out why the negatives were gone. Right. And to this day, I don't know what, who knows what's going on. But anyhow, so I made another negative of it and put it out there, and I made some big prints and put it out there. So anyhow, I'm doing my video production company, and then I go, I video shot that place, and then in the meantime, I'd also do photographs of a place called up in Grants Pass, Oregon. They have a Sai Babu retreat there every year, and so I photographed that a few times, about 2 or 3 times in a row or something like that. Some really awesome shots of the whole retreat. So, and I still get invited. In fact, they want me to go back there next year. Last year I went and I did the teachers program. They put me in charge of the children's program. They go, well, we've never had an education major here that's done this, or nobody's actually done it. So, and they loved it, right? So they go, well, we want you to come back next year. So anyhow, I've been a part, and the woman that her name is Wilma Bronchi. She's on the brinks of passing, transcending. I don't know how far she's off, but she's pretty close. But anyhow, she ran the place, and then it's just been a thing to go to every July. So they had the WESAC festival in April or May, and then July they had this retreat that I go to. So it was pretty cool. So anyhow, I came back and put together. I did the video shoot of the WESAC festival, and then I'm looking for a place to park my home, my company. Meantime, when I first got here, there was a guy by the name of Yananda. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's like a piece of furniture that used to be. He used to have a place called The Hub here in town, and people, they do all these activities. They do this. At the time when I got here, they had this Star of David formation, so we did all these meditations, all these different places, all this different stuff. And one day he was, he does these readings, for church. Afterwards, he does these things, and he does these readings for these people as part of the service. So one day he goes, Andrew, welcome home. I go, okay, fine. This was like 1995 when I got here, pretty much. I go, okay, fine. So I said, okay, fine, whatever. So I said, well, I got to find a place for my company. So I went to all over up and down California. I went to Oregon, still wasn't feeling right. I went up to Las Vegas for about a week or 2, and that wasn't feeling right. And then finally I came back to Flagstaff, and then I ended up back here again. But in the meantime, somewhere down the road, my van more or less got stolen, and everything got stolen. And then I had some stuff in storage with my sister and her boyfriend stuff, and he went through all my stuff out. So basically, all my past was completely destroyed. Everything. I mean, thousands of dollars of negatives, photographs, all books, all kinds of stuff. Everything gone. And I had just bought a ring. I was working, and I had just bought a ring because to be married with. So I didn't know why I was buying it, but it was a good deal. I had some extra money, so I bought it, and everything disappeared. So I said, okay, fine, whatever. So I lost everything, and I came here back. I was in California at the time, and I came back in April of 2006 again. And so I keep coming back and forth, back again. I keep getting kicked out like every 6 months, right? And so I come back again, and I hitchhike into town from Flagstaff, and it was on Easter Sunday. So I come in and go to Unity Church, and in the meantime, the girlfriend introduced me to Unity Church, and then I talk to some people, I find a place to live and get things up and going, and I start working. And Karuna Mai comes into town, I go visit her. Mother Mira comes into town, I go visit her. And as soon as I went to visit Karuna Mai, and right now I don't have a budget, I don't have work, I don't have anything going on, and all of a sudden I go visit her, and then all of a sudden I get work. I'm working for like a year and a half straight. I moved in with this one woman, and up in the mobile home park area, and for about a year and a half. So now my length of time stay here is a year and a half. So I live with her, and I just basically worked my butt off and just kind of got some equipment to start getting things going. And then I meet this woman up in Southern California. So I moved in with her in Southern California back in 2007, I believe, and Christmas. And then her and I, lived for about 7 months, and then I moved back. I come back here. I live in Village of Oak Creek. And at this time I have to live in my car, in between, just to make ends meet, and so get things going. So I get a place in an apartment up in Village Oak Creek, and then I'm there, and then I ended up losing that apartment because I just wasn't making enough money, and then I found a place here in West Sedona. So I lived there for about a good year, and in the meantime, when I moved to the place in Village of Oak Creek, I know a lot of people here. This one friend of mine, she goes, well, hey, there's this place where you can do a radio show on the internet. I said, oh, really? She goes, yeah, it's Blog Talk Radio. I said, you should go check it out. I said, okay. So I go, okay, fine, whatever. So I went and check it out, and I just start playing around with it, just doing different things. And now in the meantime, I've been doing transmission meditation for several years. I started doing the first one up in Dallas, Texas, back in 1990. When did I graduate from there? 1987, I think, is when I graduated from KD Studio. I went to acting school there. Mm-hmm. And so, meantime, I've attempted to start groups, different places, and they always fall to the wayside. So I said, okay, well, I'll just start doing a transmission meditation on the radio. Why not? See what happens. So, and usually, when I do a transmission meditation, I know whether it's supported or not supported, because you can feel the energies just pouring through or not pouring through. So all of a sudden, the energies are pouring through. I go, cool. So, and I don't do any advertising. I don't put it out there. I just go, here, I'm going to do a transmission meditation. That's it. And I start doing it. So I do it once a month, and I do a couple other shows, just start playing around with different things, and then I start talking to people. I go, hey, you want to be interviewed? They go, oh yeah, okay. So I meet different people. I just start interviewing them, and I go, and then right about then, I start getting more involved with social networking, Facebook, MySpace, and all this stuff. That's where I met the girlfriend from California at. And it was funny because I had met this couple, and they had met through the internet. I go, well, that's really weird. So, and then all of a sudden, here I am with this other person in the same way. But so anyhow, so all of a sudden I start, this social networking thing starts getting bigger and bigger. So I go, oh, cool. So I start doing some more and more shows, and then pretty soon I came back, and the guy that I had originally worked with doing carpentry, and that's one of the things that when I came back in April of 2006, I started doing carpentry with this guy, and he started teaching me the ropes. And I had already done some carpentry with my stepfather, back when I was in high school, and so I knew some stuff already. But so he taught me some stuff, and then I worked with these other guys that were painters, and I worked with they taught me some stuff. So pretty soon I was doing carpentry and handyman stuff. That's how I was been surviving a lot of this stuff. And so, and then this radio show thing starts developing more and more. I go, oh, okay, so, I guess I'm not going to do another show. And then all of a sudden somebody called me up. And like one day I was talking to the mayor of Sedona, Rob Adams, right? I was I was working carpentry, and I'm still doing this thing on the side, the radio show on the side. And I run into Rob Adams, and he's the mayor of Sedona. I go, I didn't even know who this guy was. I go here. If you want, let me know. I'll do a radio show interview with you, and we can set it up. And I tell him, the premise, the purpose, and the mission of my company is all about right relationships, establishing and maintaining right relationships through human lives. Okay. So again, I'm like getting ready to just blow the radio show off, and I'm just gonna like, just forget about doing any shows for that month or whatever. All of a sudden, Rob Adams calls me 7 o'clock in the morning. Hey, do you still want to do that radio show? I go, who's this? He goes, this is Rob Adams. I talked to you at the Taco Del Mar. I go, he goes, oh, okay, sure, why not? So and then I had who was it? William Brown, Bill, is that his name? I can't remember. But anyhow, he does lymphatic massage stuff. And
oh yeah, Bill Brown.
Bill Brown.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
He calls me up. Hey, you want to do a radio show? I go, okay, sure, why not? And I have people calling me out of the blue.
That's cool.
And so I'm not trying hard to really get the show going, and it's just kind of like evolving on its own. So I said, okay, fine. But see, I went to acting school in Texas, and so I know what it takes to run a show, and not only as a producer, but also as a talent, as an actor.
Right.
So I said, okay, just work with it. And so I started working with it and getting some underwriters for it, and I started working with marketing it, and it's just kind of evolving. Now we're going to be doing a show over at Relics Restaurant Friday with Tom Dongo, the Golden Age Psychic Dinner Show. We did a show last month, the Golden Age Channel Panel, and that I don't know if it's what the deal is, but maybe people don't relate to channelers or they don't like channelers as much. I don't know. So I think that the psychic show is going to be better. I think it's going to have a better turnout for sure. And not only that, but I'm getting more people. The month before last, I had over 1,100 listens to my shows.
Cool.
Last month, I had over 1,800 listens to my shows, and I think I'm already over 2,000 listens to my shows already for this month, and it hasn't even finished up yet.
Right.
So I'm it's going to be curious to see what this. I've been talking to some people. I've just expanding my efforts. Again, the premise of my show is to establish and maintain right relationships between human values, which is what the Amici Sai Baba are doing. And it's funny because when you look at their teaching model, they have millions of people that they teach, millions of students that they teach, and how can they teach all these people and just do and just work with these people? Well, they literally all follow the same teaching model. Prayer, meditation, reading some kind of spiritual or inspirational materials, doing songs or mantra or music, and then do service or some kind of spiritual activity that supports all this every day. That's their teaching model. Wow. So that's kind of the foundation of what spiritual image production is all about. Okay. So, and then the healthy relationships, right relationships, I have a cousin up in Oregon, and I learned she kind of taught me some of these things, because they went through all this abusive stuff, and they went through counseling, and so they had some very basic understanding about good healthy relationships. No blaming, no complaining, no lies, no threats, and no name calling. Basic foundation for good healthy relationships. Okay, so it's not like I'm just going out and saying, oh, this is what I want to do, accomplish. I mean, there's literally a foundation for all this. So anyhow, I've been working with that. Last week, last year, I met a guy by the name of Calvin Bowers with Ghetto Pass Radio. I think he was working with that show somewhere, I don't know where, and we just talked a little bit. He gave me his card, and so we touched base, and then somehow we touched the base again and again. And so, come to find out, now he's doing a show with Blog Talk Radio as well. And so, anyhow, we started talking, and so his premise is to help communities help themselves. So it's kind of a similar foundation. Cool. So we're working in a similar direction. And I said, well, why don't you? He came in, and they had the film festival last week. So he came in for it again. This is a year later. He came in for this film festival. He goes, I go, well, I'm doing a show on Friday. Why don't you call in and just plug in? He goes, oh yeah, I'll call in. So and somewhere down the road, about 4 months ago, I wanted to do some kind of music program. Again, we're working with music, prayer, meditation. So I do a meditation on Monday nights, and usually I do some kind of prayer. A prayer. I call this the gratitude prayer, the gratitude mantra. It goes something like, Andrew Aloha, myself, and I are grateful and thankful for all the love, healing, success, prosperity, love, inspiration, consideration, gratitude, we're receiving, acquiring, accepting, experiencing, and feeling now. Karma-free, debt-free, effortless, endlessly, abundantly, and easily in the name of God.
Okay, now say that clearly, because I'm going to have to listen to this and transcribe
Andrew
that.
Aloha, myself, and this is I got a longer version, but
Just
Andrew Aloha, myself, and I are grateful and thankful for all the money, healing, health, wealth, security, safety, success, prosperity, love, kindness, assistance, protection, forgiveness, grace, gratitude. We're receiving, acquiring, accepting, experiencing, and feeling now. Karma-free, debt-free, effortlessly, endlessly, and abundantly in the name of God. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
and I've been putting this out to some people. In fact, I put this out to some people in Haiti about a month and a half ago. And literally about a week later, they get this huge earthquake.
Right. Wow.
So I go, wow. So anyhow, so we got the prayer thing going on, and then well, the readings. People can go and read my information. I've been putting out a newsletter for the last 2 months in a row, and there's all kinds of information for them to read. And then there's all kinds of service activities for them to do. I do an interview on Friday nights. So for the last 2 or 3 months, I guess 3 months now, all of a sudden I've been able to do an interview every Friday, or some show every Friday night. So again, when I first, about 7 months ago, Spirit's going, do the shows on Friday nights between 7 and 9. I said, oh, okay. So, and
well, maybe this can be that. Maybe this Heart of Sedona could be a Friday night show.
Oh, maybe. Well, yeah, if you want to come on.
Just interviewing locals like this.
Well, I mean, we can make that a different show, but
okay.
That show is specifically tailored to whoever, because again, I interviewed the mayor. I've interviewed this Calvin guy comes on, and I started doing this music program, and I said I want to bring in some music. Yeah. So I have people that will give me albums. They'll go, oh, on Facebook.
Cool.
Oh, can you check out my album? Can you see about airing it? I go, well, can you air my album? And I go, well, why don't you send me a copy of it and see what and we'll see. So and this one guy sent me an album, and it was just so full of ego. He just wanted to make money. I go, hey, you know what? You might want to consider doing something and just really putting your heart into it. And he gets all bent out of shit. Oh, give my album to somebody else. Okay, whatever. But and so, but I get Anton Meserick. I met him at WESAC Festival, and he gave me an album. And actually, I haven't even aired that album, but I got so much music to work with right now.
That's awesome.
I have enough to last me for the rest of the year, I'm pretty sure.
But, all right, I got to interject here because we're almost at the end of the tape.
Okay.
And there's 2 questions I have to ask you for our listeners or readers. And one is, this is geared toward people who are visiting Sedona. A lot of them are on spiritual paths. A lot of them just are attracted to the beauty. Where would you recommend? Where would you take them?
Well, again, we've already talked a little bit about this.
Yeah.
One of the places I recommend for people to go to see the sunset is the airport, of course, and also the sunrise. Up halfway through, there's that rock. Climb up in there. That's the best place to do the sunrise at. Just you can see Village of Oak Creek on one side, and then Mingus Mountains and Sedona on the other side. It's just awesome. And then I always like to go to Enchantment Resort up there and hike up in there. There's a kachina up there. I do some stuff for there. And then I've gone up to Doe Mountain. I've gone up to Mount Wolfson or whatever it's called. I've gone up to Secret Canyon. I mean, there's so many places. If you want to go swimming, go up to Oak Creek Canyon or Beaver Flat or your Beaver Creek. And then some of the restaurants. Chef it's a new place, and sometimes New Frontiers has some good stuff. And then Cafe Jose, used to be good, but I think the atmosphere has changed, and I don't think it's as good as because the guy Jose that used to run the place, he was just a really nice guy, and so it was just when you like one year I went to cook for the people at the Sai Baba retreat. I cooked breakfast, and I met all this different stuff, and everything was eaten up. So when you cook with love, you wake up with love, spend the day with love, end the day with love. People just eat it up. They love it.
That's awesome.
So anyhow,
one more question.
Yeah, but
because everybody who's visiting here hears about the vortexes, and pretty much all of us have our ideas about what they are.
Yeah.
How would you explain them?
Well, the vortex. No, I mean, first of all, a vortex is a energy center of all these points of reference coming together. It's just an energy center. That's all it is. Okay. Our chakras are all vortexes, and our chakras. I mean, we have 7 main chakras in our body, but there's hundreds of them in our bodies, smaller ones. And not only that, but we're connected to even more of them, hundreds of others but there's main centers of energy areas here in the area, and to me, I believe that probably there have been visitations from UFOs or other dimensions that come here and they visit certain spots every time, and they magnetize the area all the time. Okay. And so they keep them charged and activated all the time. So when people go over there and visit, they feel like this energy, and they go, whoa, and they'll feel more uplifted or whatever. You know, there's all kinds of things. But you know, and there's different energy centers that feel differently. You know, at the park, Cathedral Park. You know, Enchantment Resort. You know, all these different places. The airport is the one I love to work with the most, because I really feel balanced. I really like that place is, you know, it does my energy system the best. You know, it balances my energies the best. So
yeah, it's awesome.
So anyhow,
okay.
to finish up real quick.
Yes.
So I started doing the music show, and so and just to air in albums, and sending out prayer requests. And what it is I use songs for the Golden Age music show, is what it turned out to be. And what we do is send out blessings, healings, angels, and healing or love to your family members through songs of prayer requests.
Wow.
So this guy, Calvin, comes in and we have a conversation, and we talk about this, and then we do one of the Temple Budgeon Band, who I met on MySpace several years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, and all of a sudden here, I just met him about 2 or 3 months ago, and they go, oh, here's an album. And so here I am airing their album. Cool. So that worked out pretty good. And then last Sunday, he had me on his show, and cool. So it was really cool because, you know, I went and talked to him. He was talking about success. What failures? Why are people afraid of success? So we went, and it was great because I was able to, you know, walk through him some of the teachings of, and that's the whole premise of the other premise of this program is to put out the teachings, not just mankind teachings, but universal teachings of guides, law, and, you know, about. And there's a whole format, the whole standard of guidelines that are universal guidelines that everybody has to abide by, and it doesn't matter who you are, right. And nobody can get by them. Yeah. And eventually, mankind will get caught up with all that. But that's the other premise of the spiritual.